everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. And this week's episode is perfect timing with my great guest, Mark Williams. Mark is the head coach of the OU men's gymnastics team since 2000. He has been the head coach of Team USA at the 2006 and 2014 World Championships and the 2016 Olympic Games. He was also inducted into the 2015 class of the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame, and that is just another testament to the outstanding coaching that he has done with not only the national team, but the OU men's gymnastics squad as well. He first came to OU in 1988 as an assistant coach after the Sooners were his main rival as he competed as a student gymnast at the University of Nebraska. His favorite Sooner memory is winning 9 national championships as a head coach and another as an assistant coach, and he said that's pretty hard to beat. I would like to thank Mark for taking the time to record with me a few weeks ago and just sit down and visit. He is such an awesome guy. He has so many accolades. We will discuss more here in this episode. The guys just competed this weekend in the MPSF Championship in Colorado, and they won the championship, and they are bringing that trophy back to Norman, and they are preparing for the NCAA qualifiers here in a couple of weeks. So he is on track again for another great season with OU. So I cannot thank Mark enough for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope you guys truly enjoy this awesome episode with Mark Williams. I do appreciate very much you coming on with me today. I know you're a busy fellow, so I appreciate your time very much.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I've been to several gymnastics meets over the years, and my husband likes to come as well, and I've always been fascinated just by gymnastics as a sport as a whole. And of course my nieces love coming to watch the women, and my husband and I love coming and watch the men, and it's just been an incredible journey to watch. We'll just start from the beginning with you. So you've been at OU for a very long time, and I think a lot of people overlook you guys because for the meets that I've gone to, it's been a decent crowd in McCaslin, but I really like to remind people like, hey, this men's program, they're number one in the nation, and you've got incredible athletes. So how on earth did you end up at OU from Nebraska?
Yeah, that's a interesting journey because when I was in college at University of Nebraska, Oklahoma was our biggest rival.
Yeah.
And if you had asked me when I graduated that I'd end up being a coach at Oklahoma, I would have told you that's not going to be the case. But, as you journey in life, you go to opportunities. So originally I started as an English teacher and a high school gymnastics coach in the Omaha, Nebraska area, and did that for about 3 years. And it was tough, though. You could only set up the equipment for about a 3 or 4 month period, and then we had to take it down so that another sport could use that same space. And I was able to develop a pretty good boys program. I did both men, the girls and boys gymnastics team at the
Oh,
time.
wow. Awesome.
And taught 5 English classes and really got a start on just how to prepare and do, teachers prep and the schedule of being a teacher where you have to get up early and, get all your classes, do all the prep work, do all the grading of papers, and then go to practice and get your team ready and go to meets and everything. So I kind of learned the whole aspect of scheduling and the preparation phases of being a coach in a lot of ways. But at some point I was like, well, this is difficult to make the gymnastics better. And I think I had the goal of trying to coach athletes at the highest level eventually if I could. Well, I moved around a little bit with either being at a club coach for a while or going back to a high school in Dallas. I was at North Carolina High School for a
Oh,
while,
okay.
and the boys team there, we won the we won the state high school championship there, and were ranked number one in the national rankings.
Awesome.
And then again, the scheduling was really hard because I was also coaching club with the high schools. And there were times I was working from 6 in the morning till 10:30 at night. And I had an opportunity to go to Salt Lake City and coach at a club there for a while, and enjoyed doing that. Had a opportunity to be outside, ski, hike,
Oh, that's
rock
awesome.
climb, and things. And while I was there, um, opportunity came for me to come to Oklahoma. And part of that came because the time I spent in Texas, I was able to come up and judge at Oklahoma. And I got to
Okay.
know the assistant coach very well from Oklahoma who took over his job when he moved there. And so it's an interesting story because his name is Mark Williams.
My goodness, how crazy.
Yeah, so I took his job at North Garland High School and uh, coached there for a couple of years. And then when I was in Utah, he let me know that he was going to go back to Texas and that the Oklahoma job was open and I should contact the head coach. So that's what I did. So I exchanged jobs with the other Mark Williams twice.
That's really funny. That's a good trivia question. Nobody would ever guess that.
Yeah, and he was an unbelievable man. He passed away of cancer just a few years ago, and I got to be at his memorial and everything and speak. But he was part of the path. I mean, he certainly got me to Oklahoma, and I would say without the other Mark Williams, I probably wouldn't be where I am. And so in 1988. That's when I started at Oklahoma as the assistant coach. And for 11 years, I think I was, doing the assistant coaching job and also coaching junior gymnastics boys club programs in the state of Oklahoma for a while. And then in 1999, the head coach resigned and retired, and I was moved up as interim head coach. And within a year, Joe Castiglione made me the full-time head coach.
Well, obviously, he made a good decision.
Well,
And
thank you.
you're welcome. You have a lot of accolades over the years. I mean, more than I can even begin to list on here, but you've had a lot of amazing accomplishments. And one of those that really stuck out to me was you being inducted into the U.S. Gymnastics Hall of Fame. Like that's an incredible accomplishment for you. But that was in 2015, I believe. You were
Yes.
inducted to that, and that's incredible. And so, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame let me know that I was going to be inducted because at that point I had been to almost all the world championships since 2001
Mm-hmm.
and had been at the 2004, 2008, 2012 Olympic Games, and had been very much a part of the national team program. In 2014, I was the head coach for the World Championship team that won a bronze medal in China. So I guess it was partly just because of that involvement and some of the athletes that I brought to the table that were part of our national team during that time.
That's awesome. So tell me what it's like because you've coached not only just in the World Championships but Olympics. So that's incredible. Where all have you been to or which Olympics did you coach in?
I started in 1996. I was an assistant coach in Atlanta. I didn't actually have an athlete on the team, but I had a couple that were trying to make the team that year. And that was still when I was an assistant coach that I was spending a lot of time in the summer working with those guys. And Peter Corman, who was the head coach, made myself and Tim Daggett the assistant coaches initially for the 1995 World Championships, which I did go to in Japan. But Tim ended up being the commentator for NBC, so he didn't act as the assistant coach for the Olympics. So I was the assistant coach with Peter, and it was an amazing experience having the Olympics at home. It was very there was a lot of pressure. I mean, it was very difficult even for me who didn't have an athlete on the floor to know just how important that was for everyone on the team, for USA Gymnastics. But it was a phenomenal experience, and I felt like at the time, one of the things I wanted to do as a coach was actually to have an athlete get to that level and be there with them. So in 2004, an athlete that I coached since he was 12 years old, Guard Young, who's from Oklahoma. I coached him at Oklahoma Gold and then at the Bart Conner Gymnastics Academy until he graduated high school. He went to Brigham Young University on scholarship there. And at the end of his college career, I invited him back to be my assistant coach at Oklahoma. And so that's what Gar did. And that was an amazing journey because I got to start him really on his Olympic journey at the same time as in some ways my own.
Mm-hmm.
Because, from 96 till 2004, his dad had been on the Olympic team in
Oh,
1976.
wow.
So I knew his dad and had been coached at
How
camps by
cool.
his dad. So when Guard came into the program, I was like, oh, he's going to be a phenomenal talent. And it was amazing that we were able to develop a great relationship. And he went away to college for 4 years, but then when he came back to be my assistant coach, we kind of picked up where we left off. And after college, he was at the Olympic trials in 2000, but was not in the rankings to go.
Hmm.
But in 2001, he finished third at the championships and made the world championship team and was part of that process all the way up till 2004. And we went to Athens and Paul Hom, Mort Hom, uh, Lane Wilson, Brett McClure, Jason Gasson, that group won the silver medal for Team
Hmm.
USA. And that was just a phenomenal experience. And having Guard there and having him as my assistant was just a kind of a dream come true.
Yes. That's awesome. So you've won 9 national championships at OU and another as an assistant, and that's your favorite Sooner memory because that is pretty hard to beat. And I followed you guys very closely, especially the last handful of years, and I know that Stanford is another program that's really been up there with you guys and beat you in the national championship. Was that 2 years ago? But I was at the meet a few weeks ago with Stanford and Greenville, and that was such a cool experience. I mean, the athletes are incredible. I mean, it's just next level. And we actually met a family whose son, his name was Jake Foster. He was from Greenville on that team, and they're a fairly new team. But we met them in line when we were waiting to get inside of the field house, and it was really neat just to talk to them. Kind of like talking to you about the journey of gymnastics and just how cool it is. And they were actually from Tennessee, this family, and they were telling me that coming to Oklahoma and seeing a program like Oklahoma and Stanford, and even though they like went into that meet knowing that they weren't really going to be able to compete with such top-notch athletes, but just to have the opportunity to compete and to be in the presence of such awesome athletes, and they were just in awe of the programs that they were able to be around that weekend. So that was really cool to hear. And like I mentioned before, I think a lot of when people say gymnastics, most people think, oh, Simone Biles and female athletes and female gymnasts. And I I always like to remind them, I'm like, you guys, our men's gymnastics team is ranked #1. And when we went to that Stanford meet, I was telling everybody, y'all need to go. Like, this is the #1 and 2 team in the nation. Like, this is incredible. So just watching you guys compete at McCaslin, I'm a little partial to that atmosphere. I graduated in that building in 2003, but that's just a really cool atmosphere to me. And I love that you guys compete in that building, and it was pretty loud the night that I was there. And it was
Yeah.
just so neat. It was just so neat to see those athletes. And there's always the names that stick out, and I am not good at pronunciation, so I do not want to butcher anyone's name, but I love Fuzzy and Emery. They have a lot of accolades behind their names, and those two guys are two that really stick out to me, and they're fun to watch. So tell me a little bit, like, what's it like working with those guys?
Well, that was a great meet for you to be at.
It was
You
incredible.
know, we had our annual Cleveland nights, so we had the kids from
Yes,
Cleveland Elementary
yes,
School there, which they always help us bring in a great crowd.
yes, they
We also
did.
had our alumni reunion
Yes,
for the year, and I think we had over 50 guys that came back, and a lot of those guys were right down on the floor in the bleachers next to
they
our
were.
team bench. And as we finished the last event, they came flying off their bench and came onto the floor congratulating the guys. So that was just a huge event. And we actually had a record crowd that night. It was probably as loud as I've ever heard it in there.
It
And that's
was,
one of the reasons we love having it in McCaslin because it's the right atmosphere, the perfect size for a gymnastics meet.
for
And
sure.
um, it was just fun. I mean, to have a chance to defeat the national championship team, having it close right to the end, both teams competing really well all the way through, was really a fun experience and one that we want to replicate as the season goes on into the postseason. But
Absolutely.
to answer your question, working with Fuzzy and Emery those are two of the more talented athletes that we have on our team. And Fuzzy's coming back from having a thumb surgery in January. So I don't even know if he did anything that night. He may have just vaulted.
I think so, yeah.
And he had just been released to go. So that was part of the reason. And we need him to be at full strength in the next month to be as good as we can be. But in the meantime, Emery's been doing a lines share of the work, competing 4 events. He was an Olympian from Turkey over the summer. So he's
Hmm.
had international experience that now the NCAA to him feels like this is fun time.
Uh-huh.
He's enjoying being one of the team leaders, and when he came as a freshman, that was not a quality that was natural to him to be a team leader. But he has really stepped up along with Zach Nunez, my two captains, to bring this team along and build their confidence and have the performances that allow us to beat the top teams. Which the following week we beat Michigan, which was also another
Yes.
team that is right up there. So 2 fun nights for our team against Michigan and Stanford, and glad you could be there. We love having people come support us. We love it when it's loud, the energy in the building. And we always cherish, having the Cleveland Cubs to be our partners in education and be involved with our meets, and having my guys go over there and work with the kids on a weekly basis. They go over and help mentor and tutor the kids. And in return, we let them come join us for a meet and do the national anthem, run scoring, give awards, and be a part of what we do as well.
That's a really neat partnership that you guys have. I saw that night when I was there, they had made banners and they were hanging around the field house, and that was really cool. And you could tell those kids, I've had this conversation with other people as well, but it doesn't matter the sport. Like these athletes are OU athletes and they are role models and they are superstars to these little kids. And so that really means a lot to them to have them go into their schools and then to be able to come, to the field house and get that extra special treatment. That's pretty cool. Like as a kid, I would have loved that. So
Yeah,
I
it's
know that
it's
they enjoy
amazing.
that.
And we've been doing it for almost 20 years now.
That's awesome.
So, we get these instances where, guys are out or have come back and run into somebody that they were helping when they were in kindergarten and are now graduating from high school and, saying, "Hey, do you remember me?" And
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh, that's so
amazing.
neat.
Yeah, yeah. That sometimes that, emotionally it's awesome and for the most part the kids just love it. Like we do an exhibition once a year where we take our equipment over to their gym and
Oh,
put
how
on a
neat.
show, and they get to be involved in that. It's loud and fun, and the kids really get excited and get into it. And this year they were like, well, this should the teacher that announced this was like, well, this ought to be one of our most boring assemblies of the year, right, kids? And they all start screaming.
That's awesome. Like I said, those kids, just to have someone that's older than them, that's a role model and a superstar to them, that gives them the opportunity to, hang out with them and see what their world is like. That's just really cool for those kids, I know. And there's so many big names that have come through Norman and that you've worked with. Of course, Jonathan Horton is one that I've followed for years, and Jake Dalton and Yul Mulder. I don't want to butcher his name either, but he's another one that's still,
Yeah.
out there and being seen. And so a lot of those guys, like you've known them for years, and you're still watching them compete and be at the top of their game. So what's it like to see those kids that you've seen grow up and that are still competing?
Well, you just feel like you're giving a part of yourself to what they're doing. I mean, they ultimately have to go out and do the performance, but I like to feel like I have a little bit of wisdom that I can give
Absolutely.
them to even take on their journey as they head into life. I mean, Yule is going to continue to compete, but most of those other guys are done with gymnastics, a relatively young man's kind of sport. You matriculate out of it when you're in your late 20s, probably. But having like, Jake Dalton has 2 kids now and came back for the reunion with his wife, and
That's awesome.
we had a great time just getting caught up. And I text those guys, at least once a month with something. Something will strike me and I'll reach out
Uh-huh.
to them and kind of poke at them a little bit sometimes, or When you got pictures of Jonathan Horton and Jake Dalton and Alan Bauer on the walls of our gym, every once in a while I'll look up there and just be like, those guys were just amazing and great. And Yule continues to come back. Just a couple years ago, we were at Nebraska. He drove from Colorado just to be at the meet for us.
Oh, that's
Found
so
his way
neat.
down on the floor. He's standing next to me, coaching me, I think, as we were on the last event. He's like, oh, no, these guys, they've got it. And I'm over there trying to get a guy to. We needed another guy on parallel bars because somebody got hurt on vault, and I'm like, oh man, this guy hasn't done parallel bars. Yule's guy, it's going to be okay. He's fine. And we ended up winning by like a tenth or something. And Yule's like, I told you they got it. It's just you develop these relationships with these athletes that go on for a lifetime. And I just love the fact that they all come back and want to join in what they're doing currently in their lives and still want to be a part of Oklahoma gymnastics, still want to have the young guys doing well, imparting some of the knowledge that they earned through the years and talk to them either before the trainings or before a meet. And that's really special. That's the part that, I can't coach without that kind of support from the people that have gone before me.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's invaluable to have those guys come back and invest into you and invest back into the program and then the new generation that's coming behind them. So that's really special to see that, I know. So what is in closing, what is your favorite way to motivate and inspire your athletes?
Oh, my favorite way. I'm not usually a big rah-rah speech kind of guy, though I've had my moments. And usually those moments are after I'm disappointed with something that I've seen from the team, and I can get fiery at time. There's been a clipboard that may have accidentally been broken in the past.
Happens to the best of us.
But I think the motivation that I have is I try to put everything out there for the athletes to see. Do a lot of work beyond just the coaching in the gym with putting together um, the scheduling from uh, a whole season to a monthly calendar to every day in the gym. I think that's something I learned from lesson plans as a teacher that any plan's better than no plan, and having a good plan means that every day we know what we have to do going into the gym to get better. And so the guys know ahead of time, like, this is going to be a hard week, this is going to be a lighter week, or what the short-term goal is and where the long-term goal ends up being. And anytime we do competitions in the gym to prepare for lineups, we do the judging, put the numbers out there, put it on a spreadsheet. I update it every week, every meet, every hit routine, all the start values, the execution deductions, where we need to get better as a team. And so it's not a mystery if you don't make the lineup. It's because the numbers don't put you in the lineup. It's not an emotional decision by us. It's where you stand. And if you want to be better, you got to work harder to get yourself there. And then that's just within our own team. For us to be competitive against Stanford and Michigan, we've got to do as much as they're doing. And so in gymnastics, a lot of it's how difficult the gymnastics is and how well it's done. So we're always evaluating. And sometimes you could be negative as a coach almost all the time because everything's a deduction, everything's a mistake that you got to fix. You're trying to make that perfect routine. But I try to make them aware without it trying to be too like everything's a problem, like, hey, we're doing great. If we're going to be better than this team, we got to do better at landings. Maybe we're not
Mm-hmm.
sticking landings as well as we need to, or we got to keep our feet together better, or we're just not doing hard enough gymnastics. And we have to address that over the summer and learn some things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's the general approach that I have. Like I said, sometimes, if I get in the mood, I mean, I can rant with the best of them. But for the most part, I just like to be relatively even, that we have done the preparation, that we're good to go the day of the meet. I try to be really calm and just present like, hey, this is just like practice. You guys have done this 100 times. Let's do the
Hmm.
same thing. We're going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, clearly what you're doing is working. But it's funny you mentioned about scoring is that's one thing that's always stressed me out about gymnastics is whether I'm in person or watching it on TV or I follow on Twitter a lot, if it's something I can't watch or be at. But the scores are so close, the scoring. And, 1/10 of a point can cost you a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it's the little things. But gymnastics is such an exciting sport, and I've always enjoyed watching it and following. And of course, if OU plays it or is involved in it, I'm following it. So tell me before you go, what's left on your slate? I know we're nearing postseason for you guys, and what else coming up with that?
We have one more scheduled regular meet that we're going to Williamsburg, competing against William and Mary, and Greenville will also be there again.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
maybe we'll see the family that was at OU. So our plan is to kind of bring Fuzzy along a little bit more. We're going to have him do more events. Emery's got a couple of upgraded routines on high bar and P bars that he want. Oh, and floor. So he's actually been
Awesome.
working hard to do a little bit more. May not be our best lineup, but it should be a pretty good lineup. And after that, we have about 2 weeks. The conference championships are going to be at the Air Force Academy, and that determines kind of the qualification to the national championships. And 2 weeks after that, the University of Michigan hosts the national championships.
Okay.
We are in a great shape to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get to the national championships, there's a preliminary day. You have to make the top six to advance
Yes.
into the finals. If we do our jobs, I think we're going to be in that situation. And then it's, have a great day in finals and see where we finish up. Try to run for another national championship.
Fantastic. Well, Michigan will be a good host, I'm sure, but that will be a tough environment. But I will
Right.
be following you guys and watching and cheering all the way for sure. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking about gymnastics and just taking the time for me and my show. And it really means a lot. So I really appreciate you being on today.
Well, thank you, and we'd love to continue to have tremendous support from Sooner Nation. We can't be where we are without the fan support. I really believe that because when we started in 1988, we were competing in Lloyd Noble, and sometimes there was as little as 100 people watching. And when I got to be a head coach, I said, let's just stay in McCaslin and see if we can build a group that wants to be in there, cheer
Yes.
for us, and we feel that support. And to have almost 2,200 people in McCaslin, which was almost sold out.
Mm-hmm.
We just love that. And if I can get it to the point where it's standing room only, I think I'll feel like I've done my job to help Sooner Athletics. We want to continue to have your support and the fan support and hope to continue to win national championships. And maybe this year we'll bring home another trophy.
Absolutely. Well, I know that Sooner Nation will be behind you and cheering all the way. I hope you all enjoyed that fantastic interview with Mark Williams. He is such a nice guy, and I truly do appreciate, again, him taking the time to come onto the show. If you do not follow him already on social media, you should definitely do that. I will link his username in the show notes, but he is active on many platforms. He's on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Substack, and his username is at WellsGymN. So again, I will link that in the show notes, but if you do not follow him, you really should. He is such a supportive coach of all of his athletes, and also he's really hysterical. The trophy for the MSPF championship got left behind in Colorado this past weekend, and it made a journey back to Oklahoma courtesy of one of the athletes' parents, and it was documented on his social media, and it was just truly hilarious. But he is such a supportive guy. He's always sharing stuff to support his athletes and support other athletes, and he's just a really great follow. So highly suggest you check him out on social media if you are a fan of OU athletics or men's gymnastics. I want to end with the Sooner headlines of the week. There's been a lot that has gone on this week. Just a couple reminders. For football, our Crimson Combine is this coming Saturday, on April the 12th. It begins at 1 p.m. and the tickets are only like $10. So if you haven't checked into that yet, you should go on Soonersports.com and get those tickets. It's going to be a highly interactive event for us fans to get down on the field and get a chance to interact with the coaches and players, and also to participate in some drills, it sounds like. So it should be a fun Saturday coming up in Norman. For men's basketball, it was announced this past week that Jeremiah Fears is going into the NBA draft, which I think was expected for the most part from Sooner fans. There was a chance we thought that he could end up going into the portal and playing elsewhere. So congrats to him for declaring for the NBA draft, and we wish him all the best from Sooner Country, and we hope that he remembers us as he excels in the NBA. We also did find out this past week that Duke Miles entered the portal, and as did Luke Northweather, which I believe I mentioned him last week, but we did find out today that he has landed at Missouri. So that is an interesting spot for him to land. That means we will be seeing him again on the court next season as an SEC opponent. I do think that's all the updates I have on men's basketball, but for women's basketball, we do have a few departures that are going to the portal. Landry Allen, Raina Scott, and Kirsten Johnson are headed to the portal, in addition to the seniors that we're losing this season. I really do hate to see those girls go, but they have seen limited playing time over their year or so at OU, and so though I hate to lose them, I do wish them the best, and I hope they find somewhere where they're able to plug in and be a little more active on the roster. So best wishes to those girls. Okay, I know I've mentioned about the men's gymnastics, how they won the MSPF championship this past weekend in Colorado. They have won 19 out of the last 25 MPSF championships. I think I keep saying those letters wrong, so I do apologize. MPSF. They have won 19 out of the last 25, and this is their first one since 2021. So it really meant a lot to the team to win this championship. And next up for them is the NCAA qualifiers, which begin on April 18th. So stay tuned for updates on that in a couple of weeks. For our women's gymnastics, I'm recording this on Sunday evening. I wanted to wait until their Seattle regional was over. I got home today just in time to watch the girls compete in the Seattle regional. As you can see my shirt, I did go to a Thunder game, which we don't want to talk about that because Austin Reeves and the Lakers really did a number on the Thunder, but that's neither here nor there. But our women's gymnastics, again, I just finished watching them compete in the Seattle regional, and they did come out on top in that regional, so they will be advancing to Fort Worth to the NCAA tournament. Faith Torres had a perfect 10 on beam, and she is one of just 4 athletes in program history to earn a 39.8 or higher in the all-around. And we went back-to-back 10s with Faith Torres on the floor and Jordan Bowers on the vault. And Jordan Bowers actually got 3 10s tonight on the vault and the floor and bars. So that is absolutely incredible. We had a really high team score to end up winning that regional by a very hefty margin, thanks to all of the perfect 10s that we got courtesy of Jordan Bowers and Faith Torres. So again, next up for them is the NCAA championship in Fort Worth, and that begins on April 17th. Our baseball boys have had a really rough week. They had a midweek outing last week in Frisco where they did have a good win over Tech, but it was a rough home weekend against LSU. This past weekend, the weather was not conducive to fun baseball. It was cold, it was windy, it was wet. The schedule did not get shifted around for baseball like I had feared that it might. They had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, and unfortunately, they did get swept by LSU. And I was there Friday evening, and again, it was cold and pretty windy, but it was not a good night at the ballpark on Friday. Saturday's game was the closest margin. We lost. LSU is a great ball club, and they really showed out on the diamond this week. I will say, though, for our pitching staff, I think it says a lot about the arms that we do have on staff that they were able to keep those bats pretty quiet on Saturday and even on Thursday. So LSU, again, is a top 10 team. They've been in the College World Series on several different occasions. They've won the national championship recently. So they are a very experienced, talented ball club. So I hate that we got swept. I was really hoping to at least take one game from them, but it didn't happen. So we do not have a good week coming up as far as it looking like a lighter schedule. We have a midweek against DBU, and then Vandy comes to town next weekend. And they again are a tough ball club, so it's going to be an interesting weekend. I'm really hoping that they can bounce back and keep up with them, because those boys really need another good win to get them back on track. Our softball girls had a very eventful weekend. Their schedule was shifted around quite a bit due to the weather, and they played on Thursday night. They played one on Friday, and so each team, they hosted the O'Connor Invitational, St. Thomas University, and UCF, which marked the return of former Sooner pitcher Shannon Sale as an assistant coach now with UCF. And those three teams each got to play 2 games over the span of Thursday and Friday. And so Saturday's game was canceled and not rescheduled as a non-conference match due to the weather. But again, all the teams got to play 2 games for the weekend, so it actually worked out very well. Glad they were able to play on Thursday. Ella Parker had an awesome grand slam. We saw the return of Audrey Lowry in the circle, which everyone had been wondering, where the heck was Audrey Lowry? We knew she had a muscle strain, and we were told that she was okay, and we thought we might have seen her last weekend. We did not. So I think a lot of us were really beginning to wonder, especially after our midweek game at UTA. This past week, we had a great big win down there. We were kind of wondering, like, where's she at? You know, is this maybe a more serious injury than we all had anticipated it would be? But she came out on Friday night. She had an excellent closer for the game on Friday night, and we were all glad to see her back in the circle. And the softball girls have big weekend coming up before they travel to Alabama for the weekend series, a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series in Tuscaloosa, but not before the midweek Bedlam game, which is on Wednesday the 9th. So if you're listening to this on the day that it drops, be sure and tune in tonight for some Bedlam softball. They'll be playing at Devon Park in Oklahoma City, and it just so happens that April the 9th is my birthday, and my husband is a Poke, which you all know. So we will be there for the Bedlam game, and I am super pumped about it. Our soccer crew had 2 home meets today that got rescheduled due to the weather, but they were able to play those exhibition games, and they still have a couple left on their spring schedule if you're interested in getting out to catch them and support the soccer girls this spring. Our track and field had senior day this past Thursday. Again, it was modified due to the weather, so props to my girl Whitney Messy and the crew for getting that ready for them to run a whole day early on Thursday, where they hosted the alumni, their senior day meet for track and field. We had 16 different titles that our athletes won that day. So again, they excelled in the indoor season, and they are doing the exact same in the outdoor season. Our rowing girls, man, they picked a bad weekend to start rowing on the water in Oklahoma City, as they did row this past weekend. It was super cold, but there were quite a few teams that were there, and it was a great first home meet for them, and they are encouraging everybody to get out and watch them. Again, you can find their schedule on their social media or on Soonersports.com, and you can get out and watch them for free at OKC River Sports on the river. Our golf men won the Merido Intercollegiate Classic by 16 shots, as Jace Summey won the individual title in Fort Worth this past week, and our women are currently playing in Georgia, and I don't have an update on that because they just arrived. And I want to take a minute to close this week's segment with tennis. Okay, so our women's tennis actually played in Baton Rouge on Sunday the 6th, and they won 4-1. So congrats to them for beating the Tigers. Anytime anybody can beat LSU in anything, we will take it, especially as a Sooner. But I want to give a little shout out to my OU men's tennis team. I attended my very first tennis match at OU this past weekend, and y'all, I had a blast. If you are in the area and you're looking for something to do, it is free to go and support these athletes. And I know this is something that I've said a lot, but I really am passionate about getting out and supporting our team, our players, our athletes, all the sports, especially those that often get overlooked. And of course, tennis is one of those. But our men had their last home meet of the season this past weekend, and they hosted LSU, and they won. I got out to support them on Saturday, and I had the best time. I got to meet Bruno Naveen, who is a player that I've referred to on the show before about him. He caused quite a stir on social media a while back, in case you missed it. He put out a challenge on social media and said, hey, I want 500 people to come to the tennis match this weekend. And if there's 500 people that come, I will go and try out for the football team. He's a big dude, y'all. a very big dude. Unfortunately, that did not happen, so he has yet to try out for the football team, but I'm still waiting for that to happen. I did get to meet him this weekend, and I will put my picture up on the video and on social media for those of you who are watching. But y'all, he is just the sweetest guy. He is so nice. I just approached him at the meet and just said, "Hi, I'm an OU alum. I'm a big fan. This is my first tennis meet. Can I grab a photo of you? I'll give you a shout out on my podcast." He was so kind, you guys. So shout out to Bruno, Naveen. Thank you for giving me the time of day and entertaining me. And again, those guys were so appreciative, the coaches and the athletes, to everyone who had come out to support them, especially on senior day. They honored our one senior this year, Jordan Hassan. They honored him for his accomplishments, and he's one of the most decorated Sooners. He has won a lot of awards during his time at OU, and not only for himself, but making us as a team and a university look good. So thank you, Jordan, for all of your accomplishments as well, and you will be missed as a Sooner. Again, they had their last home meet of the season this past weekend. I do believe our girls have a couple more coming up before the end of the season. But y'all, be watching those schedules to come out on social media as the seasons roll around, and get out and support these guys, because a lot of these sports are free. Volleyball is free, tennis is free, rowing is free, to go out to the golf course and watch the golfers is free. So if you have an opportunity and you get a chance, I would suggest that you just take a look at the schedule and pick a time to get out and support these guys, because they really are truly appreciative. Yesterday, after the tennis match, we have a very nice facility, but it's a little cramped at the entry, so I wasn't quite sure what was going on. So we left, but people were waiting downstairs, and the tennis players, they come out and they greet everybody. And one of my friends, shout out to Nate Dog, he was there with his son, and he said that he has taken his kids before, and the coach is always like, "Thanks for coming out, thanks for bringing your kids, thanks for supporting our guys." And the players are just so appreciative. They will sign anything, they will take photos with you. They're just grateful to have the support. So again, I highly encourage you to get out, especially these smaller sports that don't always get a lot of attention, and support them. And that's really what I'm trying to do on this show, and I feel like I harp on it a lot, and it's something that I bring up nearly every episode. But it truly is my mission, not only to give a voice as a woman myself in the world of Sooner sports, but just bring attention and bring light to these sports, to women in sports, in all of the vast array of ways that they are involved in Sooner sports. And these sports that don't often get the attention that they deserve, these athletes are still working just as hard as everyone else to go out and put a good product on the track, on the court, on the field, wherever they are, and they deserve the attention. They deserve the accolades. We have a lot of very talented athletes at the University of Oklahoma, and we are very grateful. And I just hope that everyone gets out and supports them. Follow them on social media. Get to follow the athletes. Get to know them. If you show up at one of those smaller events like the tennis match, or even the soccer match, volleyball match, those players are going to come and they're going to talk to you, and you're going to get attached to them, and you're going to want to go and cheer them on. So I highly encourage you just to give it a shot, and I promise that you won't be disappointed. My Sooner MVP of the week. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to pick one, because we truly do have a lot of great athletes, and just to pick one among all of the sports that we watch is kind of difficult. But one thing that really stuck out to me this week that I wanted to throw out there was Jordan Hassan, our men's tennis player that I mentioned. He is a senior. They honored him at senior day on the court yesterday. And again, I just want to give him a shout out as my Sooner MVP of the week for all that he's done for the university over his time here in Norman, and just wish him the best of luck going forward on his future endeavors, whatever that may be. And thank you, Jordan, for coming to the University of Oklahoma. Thank you for being a Sooner. Thank you for representing us well and playing well, and congratulations on all of your accolades over the years, and we wish you the best of luck going forward. Okay, to end my show this week with a Sooner fun fact. In 2015, the Oklahoma baseball team originally set a program record by having 11 of its players chosen in the MLB draft. However, it happened again in 2022. 11 players chosen in the draft. That's incredible. Shout out to Skip Johnson and his crew. We do have a talented team this year, so you just never know what could happen over the next few years as well. So thank you again, everyone, for your overwhelming support. If you pressed play for the first time today, or if you're a repeat listener, I truly cannot thank you enough for all of your support. And if you do not follow me on social media, please, I am everywhere on all platforms at Sooner Girl Pod. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or Substack. And please get out and invite a friend to follow, share an episode, share clips on social media throughout the week. So be on the lookout for those. You can tag people and share for people that you think may be interested in the podcast. They can get just a little snippet of what we're talking about and get a taste and see if it's something that they would be interested. But I truly do appreciate your support. I've had so many people order merch. Not everyone has sent me photos, but I'm truly thankful for those who have. If you are interested in purchasing merch, I have tank tops, koozies, and visors that have just been added for summer, in addition to our sweatshirts, hoodies, tees. I have 3/4 length sleeve. We got some stickers and some awesome hats. You can see photos of all of that on my social media, or you can go to the website that is linked in all of my bios, but it is soonergirl.bigcartel.com. Again, I will link it not only across my social media, but in the show notes as well. So please like, follow, and subscribe on all social media and all podcast app platforms. If you do listen, it helps if you download and subscribe and listen to the full episode and leave me a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app and also on Facebook. You can also subscribe for free on Substack with just your email to have all episodes and major updates sent directly to your inbox for free so that you never miss a thing regarding the pod. You can also join the huddle in our locker room for girls only on Substack for only $5 a month. And we do our monthly online meetup. You get a merch discount. We have a super fun chat going on the Substack app as well as on Instagram stories. I do giveaways, and I'm looking to plan an in-person meetup sometime this summer. Again, everything will be linked in the show notes and also across all of my social media. My link tree is where you can find all of the information, and that is on all of my social media platforms. So again, thank you all for pressing play today, whether it's your first time or you are a return listener. I cannot thank you enough. Please invite and share with a friend and help me spread the word about my podcast. I truly am having the best time of my life doing this, and I'm truly thankful for each of you for supporting me in whatever way that you have. Have a great week. Cheer on the Sooners, and I will see you next Wednesday where we talk sports.